of a sudden I saw in the sand a rose, a red rose. And it just popped up at me, and I pulled it out of the sand, and there was nothing wrong with it. And I thought, oh, this is pretty. And I kept on going. And by the time I finished that little area, and there were people playing all around there.
A rose, a red
I got
rose.
five
And
roses. And the
5 of them, wow.
the significance of that was on Mother's Day, every Mother's Day, with whatever I would give her, I would give her 5 roses.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that was symbolic
Yes,
to
it
me
is.
that, you know,
Wow.
I had faith, and well, I always had faith, but there was something about it that I would never
I think
forget. It
that's
was a
the
miracle for
handmaid,
me.
she's
And
trying to
so
tell you something.
I went to the, you know, where she was buried at the funeral of whatever, the cemetery. And I took
Okay.
the petals of the roses, and I stuck them, I saved the petals, and I
Yes.
threw the roses onto her grave. So I was giving them to her. So
Oh, wow.
that was a story, and I always keep it close to my heart. And I still have some of the petals, and I gave my sister petals, and that was a story that I have.
Father Paul,
Yeah.
is there a Zoom link today or no?
Yes, I just meant it. I just mailed it.
Oh, didn't come in. I got one for YouTube, but YouTube for me is not interactive because I don't have it.
No, you should have got one for Zoom as well.
No, I so far I've only got the
Know
YouTube.
that in all things,
Your
God
book-
works for
your
the
book
good of
upside
those who
down.
love him.
Let me take a look and see, make sure you got on both lists.
Uh-huh.
For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those
Can
he
I try the
called,
one from
he
last
also
week?
justified.
Yes, so yes,
Those
you
he
can.
justified, he also
Or 2 weeks ago,
glorified.
rather.
I might not still have that one.
According to this passage, for what
I have
purpose does God work
February
in our lives?
26th.
For the good of those who love him.
Let me see if that one works.
That sounds interesting.
Okay.
That's
That's the answer on both.
I like that answer.
That's a good answer.
When it says it's supposed to start, so the one from the 26th didn't work.
What about,
I have the one before that.
what about?
Look again and see if you got it, because it did come through to me.
What was the answer? Somebody said we couldn't hear that.
Oh, she said, I'm going with the answer that's printed in there.
Oh,
It's because
Yeah.
they love him,
Yeah, because they love Jesus.
and he loves us.
Yes.
That's crazy, because when you responded to me, it came to the same email address that I sent it out on.
And it's been many years.
Can you
60
try
years since
resending
I
it?
Heard it yesterday.
Um,
A priest told.
Yeah.
That I was working with, on a preaching committee.
Mm-hmm.
After the sermon, we were talking
Thanks.
about that very passage.
Mm.
And he said, well, don't you realize that you are.
I check and see if it's there again.
of the face
Yeah,
of the world?
Box.
And I
So
said,
wait,
say that again.
um,
So I
Love
repeated
affair.
it. And I said, okay, that's a
And
different
it's
way
not-
of looking at it, but
Yeah.
I understand how that would be helpful.
Or
for
if
some
you
people
come
to
in,
think
perhaps I'll
about it
just
that
listen,
way.
because I have seen,
If you thought about.
Came in under my name.
With the world,
Yes.
you were the object of it.
Mm.
You'd have some similarities with Esther, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So you might have to.
What's your email?
might have to think about those. two
Jerry Ann,
together.
1982.
Spell it Jerr.
No. G like girl, E-R,
I'm sorry.
I-A,
Helps you because you're all along.
N-N-E.
1982?
At gmail.com.
Okay, I'm forwarding the old one to you right now.
Small.
There it goes.
Where is that?
That's at the bottom of the page.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Page 41.
Big events.
I think I'll read off this time. I think
There's only
God
one
has
R, Jerry, here it is. Got it.
Okay, great. I'll see you in a minute.
big and small events.
Wow.
Some
Got
of
it
them
already there?
seem so small that you would suppose. that
I don't see you yet.
Mm.
It's still
And then-
opening.
and then-
Yeah, you go ahead.
then you hear you hear later that there was, you know, out of that event,
Mm.
somebody had their life saved.
I can see you now.
And then there were some big events. that-
I'm gonna hang up the phone.
Oh, there you are. We got you.
Okay, bye.
Mhm.
Now all I gotta do is get my wife.
Big event, God put you where you belong, maybe. And maybe that's.
Well, certainly
Well,
that's.
we're led to our destiny.
Yeah.
We all have a
That's what she
destiny.
feels. She believes that God put her
Mhm.
in a particular place at a particular.
Hey,
time
honey, I
for a
tried getting on, but
particular-
there's no invitation.
The invitation's there. I sent it. Look for it now.
All right.
Don't hang up. Don't hang up till you see it.
Okay.
No question, just from the way it
I
reads.
guess you belong.
Says-
belong.
You know, it's funny, I'm very
those-
superstitious.
those
I have
who
to
have
have to
no
have
thought.
like a crucifix.
According to his
I have two of
purpose.
them in my bedroom.
Honey, it's not here.
For those who.
Right above.
Priscilla,
Wasn't-
dear.
wasn't Just for those, was it?
Oh, wait, that,
Everyone's
never mind, that's
born-
trash. I'll look at the trash. Let me see that. I'm gonna
Knew
find it right
I don't have them
before they were born.
anymore.
here. As I see it now.
Okay.
I see it.
I'll see you in a
Okay.
minute. Bye.
I gave you your name.
My wife is having trouble too.
So it's not just me.
No, it's not.
Everybody who's born.
Everybody before knew, yes, but.
We're surrounded by so many terrible things, you know, and
Being predestined for a
we
purpose.
feel we have to fight
And that's
against it.
why.
Why don't we watch why don't we put the DVD on?
Okay, I'm getting instructions from my technical advisor. Let me go push the button.
Yeah, I think if we don't get started soon, we're not gonna,
Oh, just.
All right, so you're not.
can you pull that closer to
You're
the,
not gonna answer my question.
what's the question?
Can you see everybody?
You already had it set on the third one?
How's that? Good job. Thank you.
The Esther we see on stage is not the one typically depicted in the many films that have been made about her life. Not because of her appearance, always Esther is portrayed as ravishingly gorgeous. Indeed, she must have been selected as the Queen of Persia out of a harem of lovely contenders. In truth, the ancient rabbinical writings position her as one of the four most beautiful women in the world, along with Sarah, Rahab, and Abigail. No, it's not her looks that Hollywood gets wrong, nor is it the bravery required on her part to approach the king. Remember, when we left Esther, she had just resolved to plead her people's case before Xerxes. She said, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Ancient historians such as Herodotus attest to such a no approach policy in the Persian palace. The policy was designed to enhance the king's honor and protect him from assassination attempts. Given the plots against Xerxes' life, we know the policy was enforced. No, what is so often overlooked in the movies is this scene, an image of Esther bowing before the Lord. In the films, the moment of high drama is always the scene where brave Esther makes her unsolicited visit to King Xerxes. The camera can barely turn away from her splendor as she enters the throne room. When it does, we see Xerxes, wide-eyed with mouth open. What can I do for you, my beauty? He says to her. The implied message is that the good looks of Esther softened and swayed the hard heart of Xerxes. The Bible tells a different story. Look again at the text and see if you don't agree. Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go and gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. And I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king. In this moment of decision, Esther realized that she was made for this moment. She understood, perhaps for the first time, that silence was a form of acquiescence. Her people, the Jews, had been declared worthy of mass murder. and she had done nothing. Her apathy was inexcusable. It's easy to think of Esther's story as a rags to riches story. She was an orphan, an exile in a strange land, a nobody with no prospects who ended up as queen of an empire. But that's not the point of Esther's story. Instead of rags to riches, Esther's journey was from conformity to courage, from fear to faith, and perhaps most importantly, from relying on herself and solving her own problems to relying on God and seeking his face. Nothing shows Esther's progress in that journey more clearly or wonderfully than her call for an entire people to fast and pray. Esther knew the stakes could not have been higher. The king had made his decision. Haman, the royal advisor, had declared the death penalty. Neither had any interest in a change of mind. Just the opposite. They were making a statement. Don't mess with Xerxes. Esther faced an impenetrable wall and the possibility of death for making the wrong move. She responded to the challenge not with a day in her spa chambers, but with a retreat into her prayer chamber. Just picture her in that moment. For 3 days, fear has stolen her sleep. Hunger gnaws at her gut. Dehydration dries out her skin and hollows her eyes. I imagine her moaning, crying out to God, ashes in her hair, cheeks streaked with tears, saying, "Oh, God of Abraham, have mercy on us." This was a new Esther. Up until this point, she had relied on her good looks. Now, she must cast herself on her faith in God and his deliverance for herself and her people. Certainly, this is not to diminish Esther's moment in the throne room. I mean, she will soon clothe herself in royal attire to put herself on equal footing with Xerxes. She will cross the threshold of the entrance of his court, which would have been seen as an invasion of almost sacred space. If she makes it that far, she will then seek the reversal of an irreversible law sponsored by the most powerful man in the empire and endorsed by the king. Oh, and there's also the matter of having to disclose her true Jewish heritage after hiding it from Xerxes. But the decisive moment in Esther's story didn't take place in the throne room of Xerxes. It took place in the throne room of heaven. She came before the king of Persia in beauty only after she lingered before the King of Kings in humility. Aren't we called to do the same? We can't think for a moment that we have what it takes to weather this season of life. But we can't think for a second that God won't give us what we need, even if the request seems impossible. If you're in the middle of a difficult season, you don't need more advice from your fishing buddies. You don't need the 10 easy steps to happiness as advertised on the cover of some tabloid. You don't need another talk show. You need weapons with which to destroy the enemy's strong places. You need the tool that Esther found, the power of prayer. As the Apostle Paul would later write, the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Paul would also state, God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. Redemption often comes after weakness. That was true in Esther's story. After all, what is weaker than a starving Esther, dry-mouthed, wide-eyed, pleading for mercy? What is weaker than Mordecai with torn robes crying out at the city gate? For that matter, what is weaker than Jesus of Nazareth, God on earth? Lying there on the dirt of Gethsemane's garden, he pleaded for the Father to take away the cup. He cried to God in prayer. Perhaps it is time for us to do the same. It's time for some no-nonsense, get honest, on our face, on the floor, time with God. If Jesus could not face his cross without first facing God, what makes us think that we can do without him? We don't have to rend our garments, but we should rip away the pretense. We don't have to go to Jerusalem to find our Gethsemane. A backyard will suffice, or a closet, or a garage. What matters is that we pour our hearts out before God. Only after 3 days of fasting and prayer was Esther ready for the task set before her. As we read, on the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. Now we move to the more familiar scene of Esther, clothed in regal robes, appearing in the entryway in her splendor. Xerxes was no match for what he saw. He was not only pleased with her, but also welcomed her petition. He said, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given to you." Esther requested a dinner date, a nice evening that included the king, herself, and Haman, just the three of them. The gathering was a great success, and Haman left the feast with a full tummy and a big head. Life was good. We can just see him smiling to himself as he walks through the palace courtyard, nodding at the row of subservient servants. He is the king's go-to counsel. He's on the queen's short list for dinner invitations. What could be better? But then he sees his nemesis, Mordecai, standing at the gate. The man is still wearing his sackcloth and ashes and still refusing to bow. Goodbye, good mood. Hello, grumps. Haman snarls. The action now moves to his home, where the next part of the drama will unfold. We see him complaining to his wife and his friends and anyone who will listen about all the ways Mordecai is raining on his parade. What happens next is a little garish, even for the ancient Persians. As we read, his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Have a pole set up, reaching to a height of 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself." This suggestion delighted Haman, and there's another shift in the action. Now we are over at the palace. King Xerxes is tossing and turning in bed. He cannot sleep, not a wink. It's so bad that he orders the reading of the book of records. Even in ancient times, there was nothing more snooze-inducing than the minutes of a meeting. The attendant drones on and on. 6 gates were ordered for Susa. The king approved new helmets for the army. 7 million paper clips were dispatched to the kingdom. Mordecai saved the king's life by reporting an assassination attempt. What? We can imagine the king sitting up straight in his bed. The king then asked what honor and recognition Mordecai had received for this service. When the king learned nothing had been done to honor the man who saved his life, he was apoplectic. How could this be? Mordecai, who had protected the crown, had received not so much as a gold watch. Xerxes climbed out of bed. He began to pace. Something needed to be done, but what? Xerxes needed some advice. Ready for some delicious irony. As we read, now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the pole he had set up for him. You see where this is going. The king asked Haman what should be done to honor someone deserving of praise. Haman assumed the king was talking about him. So he outlined an elaborate celebration, complete with a royal robe, royal horse, royal crest, royal prince walking through the streets, shouting his praises. And what happened next is one of those great moments in the Bible. As the story relates, go at once, the king commanded Haman, get the robe and the horse and do just as you have suggested, for Mordecai, the Jew who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything you have recommended. Could it get any better? Haman, who demanded to be worshipped, was humiliated. Mordecai, who refused to worship Haman, was rewarded. Now, don't miss this truth. God orchestrated all the details. The sleepless king, the detailed reading, the entry about Mordecai in the book, the entry of Haman in the castle court. God was at work even in the most pagan corner of the world, in the heart of a hedonist king, and in the interplay between two men who had decreed the deaths of thousands of Jews. Do you need this reminder? Do you think the odds are against you? Have you come to feel that even God is against you? Have you been led to believe that life is a roll of the dice, and you can't remember the last time they rolled in your favor? If so, ponder the plight of Haman and the outcome of Mordecai. God flip-flopped their stories. Haman began the day large and in charge, walking into the king's quarters. Mordecai began the day wearing sackcloth and ashes, praying in the shadow of seven-story gallows that bore his name. Yet, from one moment to the next, Haman was brought down to size, and Mordecai was given the keys to the city. The next time you hear someone say, the devil is in the details, you correct them. God is in the details. God works in the small moments. The insignificant becomes significant because he is ever orchestrating the day-to-day details of innumerable lives through a millennia of time to do what he has foreordained to do. And in the process, we learn that divine reversals happen. Always assume that God is at work. Move forward as if he is moving forward. Give no quarter to voices of doubt and fear. Don't cower to the struggle. You can't see God's hand, can't make sense of his ways. That's okay. Obey what you know to do and be patient for what you don't. As the prophet Isaiah once said, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. So when the world seems off the rails, hold fast to this truth. Only God determines the course of history. He did so in the days of Esther. He does so today. And he will still set heaven in motion on your behalf when you come before him in prayer.
Pretty good.
Oh, we've gotten some more folks on. Tony's here, and Stephanie's here, and Priscilla made it on. This is good. Wave hello, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, good. Sure does something to you, doesn't it?
Yes.
And the beauty of the Bible is that the stories are true. Maybe every little teeny tiny detail might not be exactly right. They might have said they had porridge and they had soup or something like that. But the idea of the Bible is to express the truth of our relationship with God and how he acts in our life all through. I mean, you go with Adam and Eve, right?
Mhm.
Abraham, Noah, Moses, David. Oh, David was a whippersnapper. And Paul and Andrew and James and John and even Judas. I mean, God knows what's going to happen ahead, so he fulfilled whatever his role was in the process. He might have overreacted a little bit about it there, but not God. Judas. Let's take a few minutes with your group members to discuss what you just heard and explore the concepts in Scripture. Number 1, Esther instructed all the Jews in Susa to pray and fast with her for 3 days. Why do you think she took this course of action prior to going before the king? That Dottie? I see the head. And I see the fan. Must be Dottie.
Yeah, I see the fan.
Thank you so much for the stew, Dottie. Well, and I absolutely enjoyed it. And we have enough left for some for tonight too. I was going to adjust the camera so I could see Dottie's head. It's her camera.
You can adjust her camera from here. You're a good man.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not a good man. Yes. But so come on now, give me some feedback on this. Yes, Joanne.
She was going to go before the king, you know, to speak up for the Jews.
Yes.
So maybe she felt they should have some part in helping her.
Yes. Excellent. I've been begging you guys to pray for me for weeks.
Something she was doing for
Yeah.
herself. It was something she was doing for them.
Yes. And when you say the Jews, what's another phrase you could use to represent the Jews? God's people. God's people.
Chosen people.
Yeah, and so she went before God to help her to save God's people.
Yes.
And I mean, that makes sense. It's like if you work for a company and nobody's getting a raise and you go to talk to the person, you talk to the person in charge to see if you can get them a
Right.
raise. You know, these guys need a raise. Yes, Jamie.
Now, there's often been confusion about this. Now, the Hebrews, they were descended, they were from Moses. His tribe was the Levites, right?
Yes, yes.
And the Hebrews were of his tribe. And the Jews were of the tribe of Judah. That was the descendant of King David. That's the same tribe that Jesus Christ.
Well,
was a
all
member of.
12 tribes were considered Hebrew.
Yes.
They were all considered.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Each one had their own specific role within the nation, if you will, the nation of Israel.
Okay.
And it all started back with Israel himself and his brothers. That's how we got the 12 tribes.
Yes.
Israel was actually Jacob.
Yes,
Jacob, right? And he became.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what else?
Firstborn of Abraham was Ishmael, right? Ishmael, he was the firstborn.
We don't pay much attention to him. So,
No, you know why I mentioned that, because you know whenever they show the 10 Commandments,
David Watson is.
yeah, they now when Moses was rescued, he went to the tent where those shepherds were, where he would meet his future wife, Sephora.
yes,
Her father, Jethro, he mentioned that they were descendants of Ishmael, who was the firstborn of Abraham.
yes.
Yeah, so
Ishmael didn't make the cut for the 12 tribes up. You had to get past Jacob to get there.
He was a no-go.
You've been reading up.
no, I used to watch that movie all the time when
My
we were
husband
5
watched it
years old, the
Saturday.
first grade, the nuns took us
Well, then
see it.
you've been viewing up.
Yeah.
David watched it. So,
But I'm just saying that that's
Ten
always
Commandments.
seemed to be a matter of confusion.
Yes.
I think,
yes, David.
Anybody else?
I think she was hoping to get some protection from all those prayers.
Yes.
Because she knew that if she went before the king without the king having ordered her to come, she would be executed.
Yes.
So
And she
true.
was hoping that by engaging the prayers of all of the people of Israel, God would say, hey, wait a second, let me put a little bit of protection
Yes.
around this woman who's about to risk her life.
Well, she had two things going for her. She engaged the prayers of the Israelites and engaged the eyes of the king.
She didn't come to her royal position because she looked like somebody in dog pants.
Yes,
Oh,
this is
gosh.
true.
If she was Mama June, she wouldn't have made it.
And she was what?
Mama June.
You know,
You would have what?
Not everybody knows Mama June.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
yeah, no.
Yes. Anybody else have any thoughts? Who here has done what she did
No.
in your own life? No? You've never asked for people to pray for you?
Oh, yeah, that
Yes,
was,
you did.
yes.
Yeah.
When I was in the hospital.
That's the whole point of
you
the
did.
exercise.
But I always pray for others, more so than myself.
I spend my whole life praying for others, but when I'm in trouble, I certainly
Yeah.
ask for your prayers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think twice about it. I know the power of prayer.
Oh, I do too.
You know, but when two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And
Right.
to agree on one thing,
Show thing, yeah.
yeah.
I was in need of a job and in the midst of a kidney stone.
Ooh,
And I asked some people at the church in Bud Lake to pray for me, and the kidney stone passed and I got the job.
Good.
okay, prayers answered. Thank you, God.
Yeah. Priscilla, what about you?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, she
I think it's,
Yes, yeah.
it says right in the Bible, when 3 or more are gathered in my name, that I will be in the midst of them.
Mhm.
And so I consider like her asking their prayers and just the fact that we as Christians all pray together. That's 3 or more. So it could be 3 or 3,000 or 3 million or
Mhm.
did anybody say
I
that
agree.
already? I'm really tired, so I'm not sure if someone said that already, but
Not to
sorry
worry.
if it was already said.
All right.
So,
Also says if two of you agree on one thing, I will grant your request.
Yes.
No.
And people don't pay as much attention to that one as the praying part.
Yeah.
But with strict faith and with corporate prayer, it's amazing what can be accomplished. It really is.
It's good.
You know, but there's another passage. It says, "A nation will humble itself and bow before me. You know, it'll be blessed. It'll be strengthened.
Yeah.
God will be with him." You know, that's important to remember. And our country's changed a lot that way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot less prayer, a lot more everything else. Doesn't matter what it is.
I find this very helpful. Like when I pray, I don't say Our Father, Act of Contrition, or Hail Mary. And I mean, I'm not that I'm criticizing it, but I always think of the people in the world that have the worst problems to deal with.
Yeah.
And even though I may be troubled or I might be upset over something, when I always think of, first of all, the people that are dying, people that are sick, homeless, and all these children, and then after about 15 minutes, it takes me at least 15 minutes to say that. And then I figure, well, gee, what
I
do
see your eye.
about?
Yes,
What they have to go through, I mean.
Trying
I
to
see your eye.
I'm just trying to
think
see
it's
how
good
much
Yeah.
power is left in the thing. I don't want it to go dead on us. All right, let's go to the next question.
Go ahead.
Okay.
What does Esther's example reveal about the way we should approach the key decisions we need to make in our lives. Doesn't include what TV show to pick, but it or what movie to go to. It does, however, apply to other key decisions.
Prayer again, prayer.
Yes.
Prayer, right?
Prayer, patience, and listen.
All good. What about setting up a structure of priority? When you have a decision to make, who is the first person you should go to for advice?
God.
God.
Yes.
Even now it seems trite, but even in something as mundane as buying a new car. I've had people come to me and say, Father, do you think I ought to buy a new car? I said, don't ask me.
Pray on it.
Pray on it. If you have the need, if you have the resources, if it's going to do good and help you accomplish the task that God's given you, go for it. But if you're just doing it because the guy next door got a new one and you really don't have the money and you're going to go into debt to prove you're just as good as him, well, then maybe not.
Right.
That's the Smithsons. They spent an awful lot of time trying to decide what car to buy a couple of years ago. I remember that. Two of them talking together. Do we need this? Do we need that? Can we afford this? Can we afford that? What are we going to do with it? When you two were picking cars a couple of years back, I remember it distinctly. I can't forget it. You would talk about what you needed, what you didn't need, what you thought was good, what you didn't think was, what brand was.
Well, they bought the truck.
Well, yeah, you were looking at SUVs and trucks at the time. Anyway, it impressed me because you worked through it together. You thought about it. I'm sure you prayed about it. And I mean, you didn't just do it to get something like the guy next door, and you didn't get it just to have something fancy.
We have a much bigger car than the guy next door.
You got a bigger car than I do. But that's what you want to do. You want to spend time trying to think things through.
Yes.
And if the first person you ask is God, I'll give you a good example. I'll use cars in my example. Back in my last church, I started a ministry to migrant workers, and I had a Spanish mass on Saturday afternoon because my people weren't quite ready for that shock, and there were people having a hard time getting there, and so I started picking them up in my car.
That's nice.
And when I started picking up my car, they started telling more people about it because they said, now we got a way to get there.
Oh, no.
And after a while, I was relatively overwhelmed. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm going to have to buy a truck. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I got myself a Ford E350 16-passenger van.
Oh my.
Whoa.
That's how many people.
Darn
you
was
have?
that expensive, even used. And it had all the seating in it and everything. And I went and I picked them up and I did that. Now, did it stretch my budget a little bit? Yeah, not as much as I would have thought it would. But when I prayed first, I said, if I do this, you better darn well give me people to put in it.
No. Did you have 16 people?
I had more than 16
Wow.
people. I had to make sometimes 2 trips in a Sunday.
Wow.
And they all came, and eventually we slid the service closer to the other so that people would start crossing paths. Then we got them to share coffee hour and some other things. And we had an Easter vigil and had the meal afterwards, the agape meal after the service was over. And that's where I was introduced to pozole.
Wow.
If you're not, anybody here that's not Spanish, you're not gonna know what it is. Pozole is a soup, very rich soup. Sometimes it's got chicken in it, sometimes it's got beef in it, but the key ingredient is hot.
Spicy.
Doesn't matter what it is, it's hot. And I really got to like that soup to the point where when my daughter just last year, she had a Spanish speaking student who had gotten pregnant, God bless her soul.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend was a good enough kid to step up to the plate and say he wanted to marry her, and they did. They got married, and after they were married, they needed a ride home, and
They
they
asked
couldn't
you
get
to
it
come
because
get
the
it.
teacher that sponsored the party afterwards was not allowed by law to take two students in her car alone.
Oh, no.
So my daughter calls me, she says, I'm a teacher too, I can't do it either. She says, can you come out here and take these kids home? So I went out and I got them and I drove them home, and the mother was so happy and pleased, and I took the presents with her. She says, what can I do for you? I said, you can make me pozole. She says, you know pozole?
Oh,
She
God.
said, red or green? I said, red. Green. That'll
Green
burn your
is
guts out.
Did you ever hear of, soup called, caldo verde?
I have not.
Green, that's that's Spanish. They also call caldo gallego after the northern. That's a Spanish soup. It's very good. It's like green,
Verde?
parsley, caldo verde.
Verde
Or
means green.
caldo
That means
gallego.
very hot.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's like
Right.
parsley and all. It's very good.
Very
If you ever
good.
get a chance, try
I
that.
will have to
You
try
get
it.
it at a Spanish restaurant though.
Put that on the list, Priscilla, on our website. But those are more superficial decisions. What about spouses? I've known at least 3 people in my life who prayed from the time they were old enough to understand what marriage was about, so they got married, prayed to God for a particular kind of person. First requirement of which was that they were godly and believed in Jesus Christ and were Christians. And that one was my daughter, Angela.
Wow.
She actually showed me her notebook. And if you had any idea how accurate her request was met, you would drop dead.
Wow.
Thing for thing, you know, what they thought of God, how they were willing to work to support their family, all kinds of stuff like that. She got exactly what she asked for. My wife Priscilla said she prayed for that too. She
Wow.
didn't quite make the deal that my daughter did, but she did okay.
Mhm.
And who
She
was the
said
third?
yes.
I'm trying to think who the third person was.
All in the family or outside the family?
Well, that one was outside the family. Can't remember her name. I did her wedding in Berlin, but she had done the same thing. She had prayed, but you go to God, and yeah, those are the kind of really important things you ask about. You can ask about health. That's really important too, because you
Yeah.
can't do much for God if you're not on this earth. You can ask for a spouse. You can ask for healing of a disease, whether it's a terminal disease or whether it's a compulsive disease. You know, we have 5 AA groups here at the church, and people tell me all the time, why so many? So because we need them. Well, that's not church. And I say, yes, it is. First thing they say, and the first step of an alcoholic to recovery is to admit that you're out of control. You have no control over your own life, and you have to turn to a higher power. You can't
And
get
they-
much more religious than
They
that.
start with a prayer and they end with a prayer.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. They
What do you tell
One
them?
step
No,
at a
I don't know.
time.
Like they start with a prayer and they end with a prayer at a meeting.
I've done so many Our Fathers with the A's that shake you up. You know who else used to do a prayer with at the end of their thing with it? One of my motorcycle groups. And they were not what you would call typical Christian people.
Father
But
Bill
they,
Paul did too, AA.
but
The one in Waretown, Father Bill Paul.
yeah,
He did, AA. He has the Good Samaritan house.
well, he
Yeah.
had
Oh, he had it? I thought it's still there.
died.
No, the Good Samaritan house is still there.
Oh,
but
it
I
is,
know
but
he
he's
died.
not.
Yeah, but
The
but
way
the
you were
people
saying
did.
it sounded like he was still there and orchestrating things.
No,
So, wow, that's stick-to-itiveness. But those kinds of things. And God can take people out of their addictions. God can and or the compulsions. One of the hardest things in the world to deal with is violence. Wife
women
beaters
and
or husband beaters, they can, through prayer and influence of God, change their ways. Maybe not
So-
right away, maybe not the way people want them to, or maybe not through the systems that they want them to use, but it can happen.
Mm.
I've known many people that have reversed their direction in that kind of an issue and gone the rest of their lives loving and being kind. And one of them, it was a couple that had actually separated. I don't remember if they actually divorced or not. but years later, they got back together again and he had recovered. And he had brought his compulsions under control and had counseling and done what he needed to do. And they not only did well for themselves, but all their children who had been irreparably harmed by seeing that kind of stuff all saw the change and asked him why. And he told them why. A lot of it had to do with a religious experience. But prayer can do all kinds of things. And that's not to say that it instantly solves everything. But if you got 2 or 3 people in agreement, you're already ahead of the game.
You know, I think the desire to end any type of addiction, it has to come from within.
Yeah.
In your heart, yeah.
Because like, I read something one time, like years ago, you know, when they had all this prohibition, that obviously didn't do any good. The only way a person is gonna stop becoming an alcoholic, they have to have the desire within to change and realize that it's wrong, and that's, you know, that's true of
Yeah.
anything.
That is true,
even
but what I'm
drug
saying
addiction.
is that desire should drive you toward God.
Yes, yeah.
Go ahead.
I really believe that, for myself, when I pray, and you know, when there's decisions that I have to make in my life, sometimes I want to take control and try to do it myself. And I find it's very difficult to do it that way. And I believe that, you know, whether it's praying for someone I love or for myself, if I pray to God and ask God for help and I turn it over, totally turn it over. And sometimes it's difficult to do that, you know, praying for a loved one, for acceptance. And, you know, it's talking about how, you know, prayer works amongst people. And like you're going through something, or if a person's going through something, and they'll always say, I'll pray for you, or you'll say, I'll pray for you. And we really mean it, you know, and that's the kind of people I love, you know, and some people I pray for that don't have what I have, but I can lose it too. So in order to keep it going, to keep it strong, you know, in the morning, my prayers are simple. I ask God to give me a lot of things, as far as mostly to be a good person, and to kind of pass it on to other people, that I can share something good. And, you know, I don't know, we don't know exactly what kind of a mark we make in life. How many times you might have helped somebody without even knowing it by saying something.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you met somebody in the supermarket, it's funny how, you know, God comes to you in people and the little things. And it's the little things that add up to the big things that God's watching. He knows what you're doing. And it makes me a better person. It hopefully makes the world a better person, and the person I deal with a better person. Sometimes I lose it and I'm not so good, and I have to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My cousin probably realizes I pray for her every day when she goes to her mental hospital. Just 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
It's good to know that.
Yes.
Tony? You're being quiet again. Tony?
He's on there.
He's muted.
He's muted. Oh.
Okay, once again, technology bites me.
So you've been talking all this time, have you?
I started my dissertation half an hour ago. I am quiet because I'm just listening to the things that are being said, and you know, I've experienced all of them, and you know, some of them not as well as you folks have done, but I could get better. But it's amazing to me how much we have in common, but we don't always know that the cure to our symptoms is just as common. You know, and I'm hearing that, and I just, you know, I'm just thinking a lot, which is unusual for me.
It's a good thing.
It is, you know.
Well, anybody got a Bible?
Yep.
Corinthians 1:27. 1 Corinthians. chapter 1, verse 27.
All right. Oh, wow. You want to go through the whole thing?
Only one verse.
It's 27.
Or you just want the 27?
One verse.
Oh, okay.
Chapter 1, verse.
Verse 27.
You're going beyond it.
I'm going beyond it.
Yeah, come back. Yeah,
What?
come back. Or chapter 1.
Oh, chapter 1 you want?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're on 6. 21.
wait, wait a minute.
Days helps me.
I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure I'm going to surprise
Wait,
us.
wait a minute.
21.
We just want to read
Yeah,
the one?
listen,
Just
let me find it.
27.
There you
I'll
go.
find it for you. and
Yeah, you can
it.
read it. There it is.
Yeah.
Read it.
Go ahead,
No,
Kay.
that's one. We went 27,
Yeah.
did you say?
Chapter 1, verse
Yeah,
27,
okay, there it is.
1
Okay.
Corinthians.
Where is it?
God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. That's the
Okay.
one you wanted?
That's the one I wanted.
Okay.
Says, how have you experienced clarity or
Chapter 1,
breakthrough
verse 27.
when you were in a state of weakness? What role did weakness play in getting you to that point?
I found calling on God to help me.
Mm.
Yeah,
What did he say?
she said calling on God to help.
Help her.
Weakness brings
Yeah.
you to do that.
Mhm.
That's one of the misunderstandings of the world is when they tell people who are in a bad spot, you have to be strong. You don't have to be strong. You have to be smart.
Yeah.
Strength can help in certain situations, but it can't get you where you need to be. If you're bullying yourself through like a bull in a china shop,
Yeah,
but you don't know where you're going, all you're going to do is break a lot of china.
exactly.
You know, but if you realize your limitations and
Mhm.
you feel the things that you're lacking, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just in a objective way, then you have to stop and you have to think about who can help me, how can we get to where we need to go, what needs to be done. Strength has nothing to do with it. In fact, if you read the stories of most of the saints, they got where they were not by being strong, forward, boastful people. They were quiet and reflective and served others and all kinds of other things that were you wouldn't consider strong. You know, St. Francis of Assisi was called a mommy's girl, a mommy's boy.
Yeah.
He had a
You
nice
got somebody
mommy,
to
too.
laugh.
Yes.
So who can tell me if, or who would like to share something about when they were in a time of weakness and how that brought you closer to God or got you closer to a solution?
Okay, Father, you asked that I speak, and here we go. Okay.
Tony-
This,
I'm a man,
this
Tony.
is,
Tony's
this
talking.
is my tale of stupid and redemption.
Oh,
I never reached out to God to help me with my problems because I didn't want to bother him. I figured God's got enough on his plate with all the nonsense in the world that my stupid little thing was just an inconvenience. And I've come to understand over the past, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, how dumb that was, that God is with me and he watches over me. But I really was just too dumb to understand that.
Well, that's weak.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
moment of
yeah.
weakness when you think you can't talk to God. That is.
He's always there.
Anybody else?
You ask everyone you can think of and and you realize nobody else can answer it. You go to God. And you get to that point where there's no one else. What else can I?
Yeah.
And then oh God, yeah, let me go to God. And God's the answer.
Sometimes people
And
wait till
that's
the
the
last.
answer.
That's their what's the word I'm looking for? Their last resort.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's what
You
I'm
know,
trying to say.
Nothing
Yeah,
else will
it should
work.
be the first, but a lot of times.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. How many times have you heard someone say, I'm anxious or something's bothering me. And someone says, oh, you ought to go see a therapist. Now, I'm not saying therapists are bad. I have used them myself. There have been times, two times in my life when my depression was so severe. I was going for my second master's degree in theology. I'm sitting in class and we're dealing with the issues of family counseling. And I had just lost my grandmother. And I started weeping and I got up and I walked up to the teacher and I just said, I'm sorry, I have to go get some therapy now. And I went to someone I trusted and I stuck with him for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And he actually used a little medication too, because the depression was severe. And but I recognized it at some level and knew I had to go take care of it. And it was a Christian counselor, and that helps keep you close to God that way too. So I'm not saying it's
No,
stupid to ever
yeah.
go to a counselor, because counseling is good,
Yeah.
but don't make that your first resort. Don't think that if I've got something I got to figure out, I'll go ask another human being who probably has as many difficulties in life as I do to give me the answer.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
you can always go to your past if you need help.
Well, I've experienced that too several times.
That's
You
why
know who I
we
gave
come
my
in.
first confession to?
Yeah.
My father.
Yeah, your
Wow.
father,
Yeah,
oh,
why-
wow.
Yeah,
Man,
why
was
did
that
I-
rough.
Why did I know
Whoa.
That's just what it was. He insisted. He says, I'm your
that?
priest.
Oh, he
You
insisted.
give me your.
Oh.
I said, let me go to my godfather. He can do it. He says, no. He says, you got to do what you got to do.
Oh.
Never did he mention any of those things to me again. Not once,
Mm.
which was a great example
Well,
to me
yeah,
of what a good
sure.
priest is.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the next one. What events led to Mordecai being exalted by the king? This is a fun one.
Yeah, because of all the things Mordecai wanted
He
for
was so
himself.
funny in the play.
Yeah, that Mordecai, the king, for everything that is.
Yeah.
No,
He
but-
gave information to stop the attempted assassination.
Well, he saved him from the assassination,
yeah,
being
no,
assassinated.
Well, that was
The one
good,
he
but
won't
what
bow
really got
down.
him everything he wanted was the guy who wanted to
the
kill
one
him.
he won't bow down.
Yeah,
to.
right.
The one that.
Well,
Haman,
the one-
Haman.
Haman, yeah, Haman, yeah.
Haman, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought there was some really
He
great
got-
karma there.
I thought that was
Kind of got back at
Yeah.
him.
Yes.
He's my
He
kind of
was-
guy.
Well, the story's not over yet, guys.
No.
Oh, there's still more to come.
No, he's gonna fresh.
Pardon? Oh, it's gonna be really good. But anyway,
Well, in the book,
go ahead.
the 7 tells you what happens to Haman.
Who does?
And Esther.
Yeah.
Tells you
Of
what
course.
happens.
Of course it doesn't, Esther, but
course.
don't ruin the
Yeah,
surprise.
we know.
I know it.
Those who haven't read ahead.
I
We
know,
know.
but I was surprised.
Yeah.
I'll bet you
Good
were.
for you.
I was when I saw the play. I was
Oh, you
really-
saw the play
Yeah,
at
Says he's seen the
Sight
sight
and
and
sound.
sound.
Sight and Sound did it?
yeah, up in Branson.
I did not know that. I didn't know they
It
did
was
it.
beautiful. It was absolutely, it was,
That'd be something worth seeing.
oh, it was really good.
Wish they
It
did
really
that
was
again.
good.
Yes.
David said he'd like to see it.
Yeah.
But what led to his being raised up and glorified in the face of all his people was the fact that somebody wanted to see him dead,
Yeah, well,
and his own hubris
Yeah.
gave him all the awards the other guy thought he should have.
Yeah, that's pretty
right.
neat.
Well, that's what did it
You
to him,
going home?
you
In a
know?
little while, because
Okay.
I have
That's
to
why
be at
he
the
did what he
Legion
did
later.
to
I have
himself.
to
Okay.
do minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
Yes, and the
Yeah,
other
that's
thing
so.
that led to Mordecai being elevated is the king,
Yeah.
he fell asleep and he got somebody to read him the minutes of some meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
And,
Yeah, Haman had hidden that from him.
Yeah,
he said, wait a minute. This guy saved my life and what reward did I give him?
Mm.
yeah.
And he was mortified.
Yeah, he's mortified by it. Right is right.
Yes. What does this tell you about how God intervenes in our lives or on our behalf? All the things we were just talking about. The prayer part, the way that things work out
He's there for you.
He always
Ask him.
answers.
You check
Yeah,
that.
He always
He's there
gives me
for
good
you.
answers.
Right, you trust him to, now you trust.
Yeah.
No, trust
He's
is
there,
important,
but
yes.
he's there for that.
I guess
He's
he
got
makes
an
you,
answer.
he makes you survive. You
Mm.
get up in the morning, you just get up and tomorrow's a new day and you just, and you go, and you just,
Mhm.
you know, he helps. You just,
Sometimes we don't give God time to answer us.
Yeah.
we're in a
Yeah,
hurry.
That's
well,
very true.
I was in a hurry today and I didn't get everything done because sometimes you put too much stuff in the day.
We
You're
was
like,
tired.
there's too much in my life.
There's too much. Well, you know what it is? Life goes, it's Monday, and then tomorrow's Tuesday.
Me and my
and
husband
then
were
next
at
is
the open doors
Yeah, the weeks go
freehold.
too fast.
Somebody asked me the other day, said, why are you so tired, Father? I said, my wife has cancer and needs all my attention. My church is getting ready for a transition and needs all my attention.
Yes.
I don't have my clergy compensation report done and that needs all my attention.
Yeah.
And I said, other than that, nothing really, you know?
We helped the lady in open doors today because she said she wasn't well. And we told her, don't worry. You get up in the morning, you see the light. She said, yeah.
She had all
I
these
think
cancers
that's it."
and she's just
Yeah.
at the open doors getting food.
Sometimes we let, and not that it's not a natural thing to do, but we let the heaviness of our life overwhelm us.
Yeah.
The fullness and the busyness of our life. And a lot of times the busyness isn't really things which are particularly important to us, but important to other people, like the reports I have to get in by a certain date. Those reports are not important to me. They're important to somebody else who can give me all kinds of trouble if I don't get them in on time.
Oh.
And I just that's what that phone call was. It made me feel so good. Not only did the problem get solved, but they're submitting my report for me.
Yeah.
Oh, that deserves another.
Yeah. We got the parochial report in recently. That was a 3-person job or 4-person job.
I remember doing that. That was never fun.
Anybody
That's
else
true.
other than you two?
Mm-hmm.
You're still I get confused because the going on and going off every year confuses the heck out of me. You heard the report about the parochial report at the meeting. Yeah.
Have a good one, Jim. Drive
You'd have, I believe so, but you'd have to refresh me.
It was
I
the
mean,
Susan
What
did
was
it.
it?
Yes,
the report.
yeah,
we did it, Father Paul.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I do, yeah.
And Susan sent it in electronically, yes?
Yes.
It worked?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm so glad. I forgot to ask you. I was busy with other things.
All is well.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, Dottie, all is well, honey.
Yes.
Now, the only thing we got left on our list that has to be done is the audit. And I heard that was started already.
It's in progress.
I think she found 2 people to work on it.
I did.
Okay, Dottie.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. So if that's in process, we won't put a date on it.
It worked out.
Anybody lose a pen?
From
I
one
did
of
not.
the other guy,
No.
it's not working out.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not gonna work out for him.
Going forward now.
Did anybody find one, Jim? Did anyone find a pen?
It's
Keep-
yours.
Diocese of New
No.
Diocese of New.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's
See, that
yours.
might be yours.
It is mine. It fell off my backpack.
Oh, there you go.
It's blue, right?
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, it's Father.
Oh, okay.
Good grief.
Oh, I have one of those.
These loops are getting loose.
Uh-oh, need a new one.
I had it in the top here. I had 2 pens and now I didn't even realize I lost it.
Is that the pen that I keep telling you that I like so much?
Say again?
Is that the pen I keep telling you I like so much?
Probably.
This does not have the tip on it.
The wood?
Oh, the wood one. No, this
the
is
wood
not
one,
that
yeah.
one. This is a plastic one, but it looks kind of
Oh,
sweet.
okay, no, I don't need the plastic.
Well, let's continue here because
Okay.
we're almost to the end of the questions.
All right.
We already just said how God intervenes in our lives,
Definitely.
but the last question's really tough, really.
Really?
Do you believe God is in the details of your life?
Yeah.
That's something I hear varying responses to throughout my ministry. Someone will say, well, God doesn't control every little detail. You know, he knows when you're going to be born, he knows when you're going to die, but everything in between, whatever happens, happens.
No, he knows.
That's where the predestinate comes in,
Right.
right?
I believe that he knows and he puts us where he wants us to be.
Right.
Amen. I agree.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying,
I'll
isn't
give you
that,
one of the most outrageous examples I've got in my repertoire. When I was 12 years old, I had an intestinal problem,
Oh.
which caused extreme constipation.
Oh,
They kept telling me, what are you doing in the bathroom? You'd hear me yelling and talking, and I said, I am praying to God to get this out. And I condition. It was so bad that when I finally got it out, the doctor who lived, my GP lived next door to me. He says, put it in a pot and get it over here.
Want to make sure it's okay.
He wanted to make sure I didn't have something seriously wrong, but
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
this chronic constipation. I would go sometimes 10 days. without-
Oh, no.
And then it
David
just,
gets like that.
That's not good.
Terrible.
it was
I'd
nuts.
say that's TMI, but.
Yeah.
I said it was an outrageous
Agree.
example, but that is, who did I turn to? And who did I believe could fix the problem, regardless whether it didn't seem like a problem of a godly nature or not?
I was on a wooden walkway in Skagway, Alaska. And I was standing outside a store while my sister was inside because I couldn't go in that store because of all the perfumes that were in there.
Uh-huh.
I was sitting there minding my own business, and a man older than me, and I'm not a kid, he stumbled because it was a wooden walkway, and he tripped and he ran right into me.
Jeez.
And he was like all upset. I'm like, God put me where I was supposed to be. Because if I hadn't been there, he would have fallen right on his face.
Mm.
And I was there, and
You were there to help.
I'm a sturdy girl. and,
Mhm.
and I didn't fall down, and neither did he. And I said, it's okay. God put me here to do that.
All
That's
right,
true.
There you go.
that's it.
Mhm.
And he put me next door to Ann to bring her to church.
There you go. I like that.
Still here.
I'm still here.
Yep.
I think based what's in the scripture, that God actually does control quite a bit of the details of our life when we allow him. Free will can, free will can,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? Can mess things up. I was thinking of another word, and this has been happening to me more.
Interferes with his plan.
Yeah,
And yeah, it turns out to be.
yeah.
Probably get that back.
What about that girl? Remember the girl that used to did the surfing and had her arm bitten off by
Oh,
the
yeah.
shark?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She didn't let that stop her.
No.
And
she's
she
still
said
surfing.
she said God knew God didn't want her to give up all the joy that she got out of
Right.
surfing just because some shark got in the way.
Yeah, imagine.
It's kind of like I was with my motorcycle, but my wife didn't agree with me.
Well, still fun. You can't.
You can't do that.
I could.
Well, the governor of Texas, I mean, look at how amazing he is in
I
a
was-
wheelchair. Nothing stops him.
No, it doesn't.
So
It's-
there I was over just on the corner by 5:30, and the motorcycles that are loud and zoomed. I mean, I was looking like they could wake up the dead the way they go.
My husband
And they go up
they
here
drive
past the
so
church,
freaking
past the
fast.
church. Loud.
They do that all over.
And that's what.
They all hang out in Wawa.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we get all the bikers from.
One of the things we have to do starting now
Yeah.
is get the flyers out, get Greg to print the flyers
Yeah.
and carry flyers with you guys wherever you go.
Yeah.
See somebody with a motorcycle, give them a flyer.
Yep.
I saw a priest at the clergy conference on a motorcycle.
Wow.
And I ran we were leaving and I saw him put on his helmet and I thought, my God, so I went over and he has since contacted me twice that he wants to help do the blessing with us here and asked if we could give him permission to do one
Yeah.
at his church as well. And not, we don't have to give him permission. He can bless all the motorcycles he wants to,
That's right.
just as long as he does ours first.
My mother's
is
friend
dead.
was happy when he came to see that.
When is it again? What is the date?
I went on a motorcycle once, that was it.
I did when I was in
It was my
kindergarten.
ex-brother-in-law, he took me
And the
down a
rain
hill,
came down on
90
like
miles an hour, and I was on it maybe 15 minutes. Never got on another motorcycle.
Oh,
I was so frightened. Oh, it was.
Oh, I didn't like the feel.
I held on
being
for
dizzy.
life.
oh, I love
What,
bikes.
what month is it? June?
May.
May
May.
5th.
May fifth.
May 5th.
May the 5th.
Before you know it.
We
Honey,
got
May
into the
5th is
March,
when
we
they're
got
doing
into the March issue
Good.
of Motorcycle Monthly, so that's
Good.
gonna be good.
Honey, May 5th is when.
Next month, they told me I could write an article and take up some column space.
So
And
plus that
talk
May
about it,
5th.
mention that I'm retiring, and it'd be nice to have people
Oh, yeah,
come,
people come. All
say
right.
goodbye.
Well, the sign is out there, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think the
something
sign
like
is still
that.
there.
Oh, it's been there for years.
Yes, it's
yeah.
overworn.
All right, let's take a look at what's left on this.
Then we're gonna tie it up, huh?
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Like, careful.
I don't like being tied up.
You could tie Dave up.
I'll tie him up today. He's not behaving himself.
Yeah, you do.
Who's that?
His hair looked like a pigeon this morning. Even his therapist said, David, you need to do something. You're gonna go to that interview. You can't have your hair sticking up like you got out of bed.
I had this. Well, that's why I look in the morning.
Now, there's lots of stuff for you to do this week as usual.
Honey.
Yes.
How many people are doing the little studies and readings during the week?
I
If I
read,
get
I
it,
read,
yeah.
I read,
I try to.
Try and do them. They're very good. They're good for building up your own personal
Finding your own
relationship with
voice,
God.
yeah.
But I'd like you to do something for me for next week.
Okay.
I want you to do what they have here as a response exercise for today. Is draw a timeline of the last decade, that's the last 10 years of your life. Mark any major events that took place
Mm.
and place a star beside any event that you believe was God ordained. Break into pairs. Well, actually, we can do that as the opening exercise next week.
Okay.
We'll break into pairs and we'll share the timelines with one another.
Okay.
Okay? So it's not a difficult assignment.
No.
It's only 10
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
Even with my faulty brain, I can remember 10 years ago. And
I think I
Exciting
can.
10 years.
2014.
yes, since 2014.
I moved
Yeah.
to Massachusetts.
I'm on my 5th grade grandchild.
Congratulations.
That's really God bless him.
Number
Number 5.
We got number 8 coming.
8, really. Well, I have 10 grandchildren.
Goodness.
And then
The
5
question
in
is,
grade grade.
what schools did they go to? Because if they went to the liberal schools, they tell them, don't have a lot of kids. You're going to hurt the environment. Keep it. I've had young couples come to me and say, we don't want any children because we don't want them to have to live in a world like this. I said, you don't understand. You can't change the world unless you put somebody in who's got the same thoughts as you.
My grandkids are still having children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the second one for
Tell 'em to
one of them.
keep
God
at
bless-
it.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully by the time I have a lot more.
Tell them, be fruitful, multiply.
Well, they are. Well, that's what happened.
Our friend
Oh.
is having a baby at the end of the month.
I wrote my
give her
best
blessing.
man
I
a
hope
Christmas
she
card
does
and
that.
I said to him, I'm on my 5th great grandchild. And he said, boy, the Selectly family is multiplying.
Yeah. The Lord will be with you.
And also
And
with
also with you. Yeah.
Heavenly Father, help us to spend some time praying by using the timelines that we're about to put together. Rejoice over the God ordained events and thank you for helping us to get through the losses and disappointments. Pray for the unknowns, the difficult circumstances we're facing, the questions for which we are currently waiting to receive an answer. Thank the Lord for always ordering the steps of your life. Write down any prayer requests that the group has and pray for those needs during the coming week. So when you get home, do those timelines,
Okay.
go over them. Thank God for the good times and the bad, where any place where he was involved. Some of the worst things that, like when my grandmother died, for instance, God was there with me. I gotta tell you, I might have been depressed and upset,
Yeah.
but he was there with me. He pulled me through it. I didn't quit and say God's deserted me. That's the worst thing you can say about. And I've had that, even in this parish, I've had at least 3 different instances where someone has said to me that God has deserted me. I'm trying to think of what the exact word was, not deserted.
Abandoned?
Oh,
Abandoned.
it was a worse word than that. And
Really? Oh my gosh.
God,
Usually when somebody says that, it's really the opposite. They're the ones that abandoned God.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
at
that's
that
true.
time.
Yeah.
that's very possible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Would not disagree with that. What is the word they used? It was such a strong
For-
word. Made me-
Forsaken?
That's it.
Forsaken.
God has forsaken. I think, my God,
The guy right.
the only one guy I ever knew that was allowed to say that, and he was in a garden.
Yeah.
Or actually, he was hanging off a cross.
That's where, right,
Yeah,
that's where it
God
came-
is- That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
No.
Wow.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, that's where it came from.
well, listen,
Sure.
thank you guys
Yeah.
online
you.
for being with us.
Hands down.
Looks like we lost somebody.
Uh,
Stephanie left.
Stephanie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see.
Stephanie sticks to schedules. It's probably dinner time. Thank you for being patient with getting online with us today, guys. I can't promise
Okay,
this week will be any better because I don't know what's going on with Priscilla yet.
Well,
And what is next week's date? What is next?
well, if today is the 4th, it's gotta be the 11th.
All right, the 15th, I'm out of commission because we got to take her to the
oh,
cancer surgeon for evaluation and treatment plans.
what's happening?
But
Yeah, it'd be the 12th.
Like every few days, not every.
What?
week.
Monday was the
Because they'll be
11th.
out
Oh,
there
next
for the night,
Monday.
go back.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think so, yeah.
Here.
My wife's still there. Honey, is the 11th okay?
Yeah, so, yeah.
Priscilla?
I think it's the 12th.
She could be sleeping, let her be.
No, she's hiding.
That's
What
okay.
day?
Yeah, that's.
What did you say?
Is the 11th, next Monday.
It's Monday.
Do we have any doctor appointments planned?
Oh, I don't know, honey.
You never know.
I don't think so. I think we're clear.
I'm hoping we
don't know for
actually
sure.
just get them started on time. I'll be home in a
Let
little
me
bit.
look
okay?
online. Let me look online. Hold on a second.
All right. I should look on mine too.
Hi, Priscilla.
You're looking good, Priscilla.
Oh,
think-
thank you.
Yeah.
Because we were
You're
friends
remind-
last night.
We're thinking about you.
My face isn't recognized by my phone.
No, you're gonna be fine. Priscilla, hang
Yes,
in there.
she is.
Hang in there, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm clear to
How
the,
can I make it recognize me, Priscilla, so I can get into my hospital account?
Close it out again?
okay.
And
I
change
thought
the
I missed
angle
my
that you're
CAT
over
scan.
here. Yeah.
Oh, it
See,
gave me the number.
heck out of me.
Father Paul
You
speaks.
got one of those calendars like my son has.
Yeah, the 8th, I've got it. Oh, yeah. well,
May as well.
I got the 8th, the 25th, 3rd of April and the.
11,
Hey,
11,
I got
You're gonna be
doctor's out there 'cause
fine.
Lucas-
14, 26, 20.
that makes the whole thing more
Okay,
hard.
Paul,
Yes,
the 11th is clear.
okay, that's good. Then we'll
Okay.
try
I
and
don't know
keep-
about you. Did you check yours?
Yes, I just did. I've got some
Okay.
on the 8th and the 15th.
Gonna get up.
When I get on the.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Rest well, Priscilla.
Bye.
We'll
Bye-bye.
see you all later. I'll probably see you Friday night, right, guys? Stations of the Cross?
Oh, yeah.
I don't drive in the dark.
No, online.
Nice. I wish I
Oh,
could-
right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this week, I forget whose stations I'm using this week. We've done who's the guy we do the prayers for the communion?
Oh,
Alphonse.
St. Alphonse
We
Liguori.
did Alphonse Liguori's stations. We did Padre Pio's stations, and we're going to do somebody else new this week.
Okay,
God
all
bless.
right. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Be home safely, okay?
Thank you. You too. Well, no, yeah.
Okay.
You're-
Bye-bye.